What? Huh? Welcome to Sibs Read Smut podcast. I'm Ned.
And I'm Helen.
This is a podcast where we read, rate, review, and tell jokes while discussing your favorite, but mostly our favorite, dirty romance novels. We are getting up on the technology now. If you have suggestions and or questions, please reach out to us on Instagram at SibsReadSmut and or shoot us an email at sibsreadsmut@gmail.com. On today's podcast, we will be discussing Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy. It is one of my favorites. I think I picked this book, but we can get into that later.
Because of the cover, probably.
Based solely on the cover.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, we will be talking about these books in full. Beginnings, endings, twists are all fair game. So if you haven't read the book, hit pause, go listen, come on back. Now off we go. I wrote a brief description of this book for Helen to read. Why don't you give us a brief summary of the book?
I sure will. I have purposefully not read this yet, so this is my first reading of Ned's description. All right. Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy. Genevieve, a reformed bad girl who used to fuck shit up, comes back for her mother's funeral and gets more than she bargained for. A job she doesn't want, an ex-boyfriend man-child named Evan, and a grudge-holding cop. Evan will do anything in his power to convince Genevieve to start humping again. Will she return to her bad girl ways or stick with her newfound life far away from temptation? Start humping again.
Very accurate.
That is accurate. And that covers it. Again, the will you, won't you of a romance novel. They will.
They'll get there.
They'll get there. But I love that you started with the mother's funeral, because that is literally one of the most iconic scenes in my history of reading rom-coms. That scene stands out to me in every book I've ever read. I will never forget that they almost fuck at her mom's wake.
Or it's the after party of her funeral. Literally, they just came back from the church or whatever, and she's getting finger blasted in the bathroom.
Genevieve, not the dead mom.
Correct, Genevieve, the main character of the book.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Not the deceased mother.
Small point.
Oh my God! Have you ever watched the show Brockmire?
No.
He has this hate relationship with Joe Buck, the sports announcer Joe Buck, and he walks into a reception where Joe Buck is, and he's like, Joe Buck's like, "Where were you?" And he was like, "I was out fucking your mom." And Joe Buck goes, "My mom's dead." He goes, "No wonder it took her so long to finish."
Jesus. That's terrible, Ned. Jeez.
Very, very terrible.
So
but the funeral, we learned some things from her family.
Yes,
Genevieve's mom is ripping bongs and taking her top off on a trip to Florida. Sounds like absolutely wild. And my first note in my notes is #mom goals, Helen.
And I'm offended by that, to be honest, because everybody hates the mom in this book. Genevieve spends the whole book, the main character spends the whole book shit talking the mom and saying basically they had a terrible relationship, and I think at the end this was kind of a duh moment for me, and it will all wrap back, but at the end the dad is like, "Genevieve, you and your mom are so similar. That's why you didn't get along." And it took me the whole book to be like, oh, duh. All of the stories at the funeral that they were at the funeral party that they were telling about the mom, it was stuff that Genevieve had also done in her teen years. And I was like, oh, they are really similar. But yeah, the mom who's dead now had pretty significant postpartum depression, and they had 6 kids.
5 of her 6 kids. She had massive postpartum depression. It's
you find out. I guess that's sort of
it provides a little context.
It does. And it's one thing I love about this book, and we should probably start to go a little bit more in order.
#love you, Elle Kennedy.
We do love Elle Kennedy. There was just so much backstory, and both characters, so Evan and Genevieve, both have mom issues. they both have good supportive dads. Evan's dad is dead. And then, Genevieve's dad is alive and a character in the story today and that we read. And then...
well, yeah, but Evan's dad was a piece of shit.
Evan's dad was a piece of shit? Was he?
Yeah, he died. Didn't he die in a drunk driving accident or something?
Oh, maybe.
His uncle was a super nice guy, the guy who raised him.
We love Levi. But
the gay uncle.
Well, yes. Anyway, so they both have like a lot of parent issues that... But I also think that this is unique to Elle Kennedy. Both characters recognize and have a lot of self-awareness about the fact that they have issues with their parents.
Absolutely.
Like, they don't... It's not like, God, I'm acting out and I have no idea why. Like, this is just who I am. They're like, no, this is clearly related to like my upbringing and the relationship that I had with my parents and how all of that connects back. And
hashtag social worker.
I just liked that these characters were self-aware and really understood themselves.
Yeah.
And I know my description, I'm sure, has everybody really understanding what the book is about. But basically, Genevieve comes back to town for her mom's funeral, sticks around. She starts working for her dad's construction company. And she had left town because she wanted to get her life together. She no longer wanted to be a bad girl reputation.
She had a low moment and left town immediately afterwards. And we find out later in the book why all that came to pass.
Yeah.
But this funeral scene does not seem as fun as our family funerals. We've had some wow moments at some of our picking up grandma's ashes where the woman spilled her on the table. And was scooping her up with magazines.
With the magazines.
Oh my God.
Well, and the only reason that was opened was because our uncle was like, how do we know it's actually her? Like, how do we know it's her ashes? And so he, like, cracks the top off and then it spills. And then the lady comes out. She's like, oh, my goodness. And we're all laughing, but, like, we're, like, heaving. And so we're, like, we have our arms around each other. It looks like from far away maybe that we're crying. But we're not. We're laughing.
We were laughing our asses off.
Uncle, like, got the box open. He's like, yep, that's her.
Yeah. Well, and what was at the funeral party for Grandpa, where Grandma said her classic line, "How exactly long are balls?"
Yep. Well, in the context of we're talking about the movie,
movies.
The Producers, which is 12 hours long, and somebody said that movie is long as balls, and Grandma replied, "Exactly how long are balls?" And that's lived in infamy. I mean, that quote will never go away. So.
It's classic. I mean, a classic family, Donnelly lore.
Yes.
But yeah, the serious disinterest by the mom, it comes up constantly. But also, her dynamic with her brothers was very reminiscent to me. She calls her brother a butt sniffer at one point, and I'm like Helen, sounds like our dynamic in the past and currently.
Well, and one of Genevieve's nicknames this is what Evan called her. She's like, I have no memory of how this became my nickname, but her nickname is Fred.
Yeah.
And my entire childhood, not all of it, you called me Bob.
Yeah. I just called you Bob one day, and it pissed you off so bad that I just kept doing it for years.
Hate it. I still hate it. And then we had some babysitter who was like, why do you call her Bob? And you were like, because it makes her mad. That's it. That's the only reason you had. There's no like backstory to why you called me Bob. It just pissed me off, and it still does. And so... Then she started calling me Bob, and I already didn't like this babysitter. And so the fact that you both were calling me, oh my God.
Oh yeah. It pissed you off to no end. And that is, I don't know if you read my notes, but that's literally a note in here. Like, Fred is a great nickname for Jen. And I was like, remember Bob?
Mm-hmm. I sure fucking do.
Oh,
and
man.
That can rest in peace.
Yeah.
No desire for that to come back.
Well, I mean, I think the last time I called you Bob was probably in your in my wedding speech for you guys at the rehearsal dinner. I brought it up. I brought it back up again.
I'll never die, like Genevieve's mom.
Yeah, well, and so, there's all this family interaction, and we find out that the dad's going to sell the house, and that he wants her to work. The dad wants her to work for him for a little bit to get the office back in order because the mom was the payroll master and all this kind of shit. And then Evan walks in with a tall, delicious frame. I was like, yeah. I was like, delicious frame? Question mark. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I was like, she's just wet all over for him from the get go. Like,
she was. Which,
I mean,
yes,
they're super horny for each other the whole time.
Yeah, that never goes away. They have like a chemistry and like a magnetism to each other that.
Yeah, they're childhood sweethearts who have been on and off for most of their lives. Very toxic sounding relationship where they love making each other jealous and whatever. But so they almost do hand stuff in the bathroom, and then and then I do have that highlighted as a potential sexy chapter in my notes, of which there are 5 sexy chapters in this book. But yeah, I was like, they're off and on all the time. Toxic? Question mark. Even their friends seem to say so. Like, you guys are pretty toxic for each other. But she comes back.
Group has a lot of opinions about each other's relationships.
Oh yeah,
they can't
and they kind of
stay
suck.
out. Yeah, they all kind of suck. Well, and so we should admit, this is the second book in the series. So this is the Avalon Bay series. It's about this small town, I think in the Carolinas, somewhere. And it's like a rich college town. And so it reminds me, there's like a WB show where there's like the rich kids, in the Outer Banks is what it's called. Oh. And there it is. And so, but there's like the rich kids that go there for vacation, and then there's the locals, the people that work there, the townies. And so Genevieve and Evan, this book, they are both townies. So that's not it. But the other 2 books in this series are both about a townie and like a rich kid, a clone, I think they call them.
Yeah, they call them clones in this book.
Falling in love and, melding the 2. And so that's the context for Avalon Bay, is this little town. And these townies, the locals, they have this friend group, but they're all up in each other's business. And we actually didn't.
Each other and stuff.
Yeah, we did not read the first, we read it. But we chose not to talk about it on the pod because...
Well, but I also started with this book. The book 2 was the first one that I read of the series.
Oh, I read them in order.
See, no, I read book 2 first, and then I went back and read book 1. So I mean, if we're keeping to the fact of like the first, delving into these into
these
books,
novels.
Yeah, this was the first one that I read, and then I went back and read book 1. I like this one better than book 1.
This one was, in my opinion, far superior to book 1. I think the only thing from book 1 that I thought was really important for me when I did read them in chronological order, and the relationship so Evan and Cooper are identical twins, and the first book is about Cooper, and so their mom is super toxic, left, like their dad died when they were little, the mom sort of left them with this uncle, just left town, abandoned them, even then would like come back, like as they're adults now, will like come back occasionally, crash on their couch to like sleep off a bender, and then ask for money and leave again. And so she's just always been a super toxic character.
Real piece of shit.
Real piece of shit. And the first book with Cooper, when he, falls in love with a clone, and there's a lot of toxic shit in that one, the story of the mom, like the mom is really central to that book, and you learn a lot about her and their relationship. So she steals from them in the end. And she ends up ripping them off for thousands of dollars, steals their life savings. Cooper's life savings. And then he essentially
both of their life savings. It was Evan and Cooper's. It was the money that they were saving to like start their business or whatever.
Yes.
Or fix up the house or something.
And they put her in jail. I mean, they called the cops, got her arrested, put her in jail. They got I think they got most of their money back. But it obviously caused a lot of tension. So I knew that going into reading this book. And so when Evan and Cooper's mom comes up in Evan's book, I knew more. I don't know if that was like, I mean, now that you've read them, like, I don't know if you missed that at all, like reading the first one reading them out of order. Did you feel like... you missed a piece of it, or
No, I don't think so. I got enough from context clues where I was like, oh, okay, she stole something, and honestly, I didn't realize that it was part of a series. So like, I was just like, oh, there's a backstory there that
they'll explain eventually.
Yeah, that they're not going to get into that much. So yeah, I didn't really feel like it was germane to this story that that they go super deep into that backstory. I mean, more it's that Evan wanted to create a relationship with her, and Cooper wants absolutely nothing to do with her, and they fight about it, and Evans seems to think that Cooper is treating him like a surrogate father. He's constantly talking.
Cooper's the dad.
Cooper is treating Evan like a son.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they're at odds for a lot of this book. Like arguing and sniping with each other. I mean, he sees Evan coming out of the funeral and goes, really, dude, you had to go into the bathroom with her? Like, sorry for your loss. Here's my penis. Direct quote from Cooper. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that he has some good lines when he's like, you're an idiot, but also, like, Cooper hates Genevieve too. Yeah. So he's constantly going, stay away from her, and then he confronts her and is like, stay away from my brother. You crushed his heart when you left town, because she left,
which she did
in the middle of the night and didn't tell anyone and just cut everybody off and left. And it was like, okay, and Evan was crushed, and so it was I forget where. I forget where I had a note about that where I'm like it seemed a little harsh, his confrontation of her, but also he's pretty much right about everything he says about her. He
is. I think it's hard because these characters, both Genevieve and Evan, they just have this really bad. I mean, they have these bad reputations on purpose. They really, you hear a lot about their hijinks, both in high school and after, and all the things they used to get into. And I mean, they did a lot of illegal shit, breaking into
underage drinking, drugs, breaking into the house construction, pool parties and stuff.
And so they definitely paint them to be rough, and I think the motivation for them, she has this event, I think we can talk about it. So basically she is out drinking one night with a friend, and she had babysat for this family. The dad was a cop, and he's a dirty cop, and he was always creepy when she was babysitting but never did anything. And then so he was married, 4 kids, and then one night she's out with a friend at a bar and they run into this cop, and he makes advances on her.
Pretty much just short of sexual assault.
Yeah, just short. And she, and it wasn't the first run, and there was something else to it. But so this was the straw that broke the back. And so she's out, it's late night. This, thing happens with the cop. She is pissed. And so she decides, she gets home and she keeps drinking. She
goes to the guy's house.
So then she goes to the guy's house, and I love her reflection on this experience. You start to learn about what happened and why she fled town. So she fled town because she showed up at the cop's house in the middle of the night, banged on the door, woke everybody up, including the 4 kids that she used to babysit and had a soft spot for, So she goes in and tells the wife, your husband came on to me at the bar tonight. He's an asshole. He's a creep.
Real piece of shit,
Real piece of shit.
I have in here, Deputy Rusty Randall is a grade A douche.
Truly. And so the wife essentially leaves her husband because of this revelation. She's not surprised. She knew her husband was a douche, but she hadn't really been confronted with it in that way. And so she does leave him. And so the cop blames Genevieve Genevieve for like blowing up his family completely.
Yeah.
And so she essentially, after this, she's really ashamed, not of, like, Genevieve is carrying this shame with her, not of him being an asshole, because he is, but of the way that she went about it, like of going into the house in the middle of the night, blowing it up, waking everybody up, hurting the wife and the kids because she cared about them. And she described the mom of this family as like a big sister to her and somebody that she had a relationship with because she didn't have a relationship with her mom. So it was, I think she felt such shame and hurt about that piece of her actions, and she's just so insightful. I just, like, most characters wouldn't like understand that about themselves, so she had no like qualms with what happened to him. So, you know, his family breaks up, the wife gets the house, the kids, you know, all the above, and he still is a cop, but he's an asshole. And so she leaves town, she goes to Charleston for a year, then her mom dies, and then so you find all of this out as the book goes on,
sporadically throughout,
you
know, in
don't
reflections.
necessarily realize, like, so that's why she left. She did try to say goodbye to Evan, but he was drunk and hungover. So you also find that out
I don't think it was goodbye. I think she tried to tell him about the situation and like kind of vent to him, and he was too drunk and high from the night before and was passed out, and she then packed her shit up and left. Yes. You know, because I think if she could have talked it out with him, she probably would have stayed or whatever. But you know, that entire situation, and you know, and into the now current timeline of her coming back to town, Rusty Randall, what does he do? He provides an undercurrent of menace to this book again.
Exactly.
Hashtag, okay, we need to get more followers so we can start making merch, because hashtag undercurrent of menace has to be one of our t-shirts.
I think we don't even need more followers. You just need to wear that on a t-shirt and people will talk to you about it.
Yeah. Sibs read Smut on the back. Undercurrent of menace on, you know, and right underneath the man boob line, I think is a good area for that.
Perfect. That's right where it should live. So when you sweat, it gets really wet.
Yeah, just all that from under boob sweat.
Gross.
But you know, along with the Knock 'em Out series, whatever else, fighting is a big thing in this town. Yes. You know, they literally, there's a fight at the first bonfire party they have. Mm-hmm. The guy's like, he's like, oh, you're, you know, he walks up like, you're dating you're kissing my girlfriend, and he's like, you're dating your sister? And I was like, it reminded me of Happy Gilmore, where it's like, you eat piece of shit for breakfast, you know, like. and then they punch each other in the face a bunch of times, and Genevieve is like, yuck, you guys are so immature, like, I'm a good girl now, I don't want to have any part of this.
Sober.
Yeah. And he you know, I was like, okay, it's part of their jealousy, you know, back and forth toxic relationship bullshit, that I was like, oh, okay, all right. But you know,
it's sort of a theme throughout, because you know, the other books too, when like there's the clones versus the locals, and they get in like fist fights often, and it's a common theme in these books of like people just old timey fight, fisticuffs. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Put them up.
Well, but it's also weird because Genevieve starts dating a dude. Yeah. You know,
she meets
Evan was harassing her about something, you know, just egging her on, and she goes, well, I can't hang out because I have a date tonight, and she didn't. She had to go find a date and introduce Harrison, this rookie cop on the force, and potential
really
love interest, and she is absolutely using him. The one part of this book where I'm like, that's a little shitty is her entire relationship. She's like, I have no sexual attraction to him, but I'm going to keep dating him because it pisses off Evan,
I agree.
and I want to be better.
I agree with you, but she says something. There's a conversation between her. I felt better about her and Harrison when she said something about Evan in front of him, and he was like, listen, I grew up in this town. I had a front row seat to the Evan and Genevieve show my entire life. Like I am he's like, I knew when you asked me out to dinner that it was probably going to piss off one of the Hartley brothers, and that I was probably going to see them. Yeah.
And
so
he didn't get it. He never gets his ass kicked in this book. So
which
I
I'm
was
glad
like,
about, because he's a sweet character.
And spoilies, he gets together with the aunt at the end, who we have not even introduced yet. But he does get love in the end.
Yeah. But he's, I think,
happy ending.
He gets, okay, put your hand down, Ned. That was far too graphic
Jerk
for
offs.
a children's podcast. Okay. But I think the whole point of this book, right, Bad Girl Reputation, is Genevieve is trying to shake her bad girl reputation. And so he represents such like she is striving to become a better person, and he is like, he rescues like puppy dog or like an alligator from the roof of a house.
Oh
and,
my
like,
God, that cop story.
He does, like, he's just a sweet man. Like, he's really good with kids. He seems like he wears khakis. Like, he just seems like a nice guy. And so
wears khakis is a very high bar.
Listen, it's true. And so I think he was there very much to move the story forward and be an example of, I think, what she thought she wanted. And I agree that it kind of annoyed me that she used him for so much of this novel.
Yeah.
But I do think he was in on it a little bit and just kind of, he knew. But I don't think he ever really thought.
She's full on fucking Evan, later in the book, and still going on dates with him. Like it's a little shitty. And the whole reason that she decides to go out with him in the first place is because she's topless sunbathing, and
This was such an uncomfortable scene.
It was so weird. So the gay Uncle Levi and Evan show up to tour the house because the dad's selling and they have to do some renovations, and he just walks in the backyard and has a very detailed description of her tits. She's
laying topless at her pool.
Yeah, and then she automatically recounts this scene of where he told her that he loves her for the first time, and then she peed herself a little bit after the declaration because she was laughing so hard. And so in my notes I have, did you pee yourself after your husband declared his love for you?
No. I believe that when the first time we said I love you, it was like we were like fight. Like, I was mad. I got mad at him about something, and I was like, I was going to tell you that I loved you tonight, but now I'm not. And we never said it before. And so he was like, wait, what? And I was like, I was going to, but now I'm not.
Now I'm not.
He was like, well, I love you. And I was like, well, I guess I love it, but I'm such like I'm a little shit. And so I was like, well, fine. We can move on. That's it. I mean, it was not a cute like Hallmark story by any means. Like, I was mad at him about something. And I was like, well, I was going to tell you this, but now I'm not.
Now I'm not.
No, I'm not.
I'm moving to Florida and not giving any of you my number.
Listen, that's still an option.
Direct quote from Helen as a kid.
As like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old. And it's still an option. I'm still keeping that on the table. So don't piss me off.
So I had to ask the question, does this detailed description of her, like wetness and boobs and sun oil count as a sex scene? Because these two are like jizzing all over each other.
No.
I mean, in their minds.
Does not count. Does not count. I think I hated this scene because like Levi, the uncle, was with them and just standing there awkwardly. And
she's blasting nips. Yeah.
She's like, she's completely topless. And she knows that she's like, well, I mean, she didn't know they were coming. So I don't fault her for being topless at all. But like, once they came in and the uncle was clearly standing there looking super uncomfortable. And he was like, she was like, Levi doesn't care, he's gay. And I was like, that has absolutely nothing to do with this. It's the fact that like, you could just put a towel. Like, he is not there to see that and does not want to see that. And it doesn't matter what kind of nudity, like, just cover up while this older gentleman is there. He is a lovely man. He does not need to. I felt
Yeah.
so bad for him. And then they had their whole like, snipping at each other, and Levi's just like staring at the ground like, what the fuck? And finally like goes and he's like, you know
Yeah,
what?
finally he
I'm
finally he's like, I'm gonna go
inside.
check out the kitchen. Like,
You know
yeah.
what? I'm removing myself, which I'm absolutely not a sex scene, especially because Levi was there, and that pissed me off. I didn't like that scene. I was like, you
Yeah,
guys,
but you also, in a very brief description of him in that scene, kind of get exactly what life has been like for him in that small town. Being, he's a very private dude, and he's lived with this guy for a long time, but they never have like come out. They don't. Everybody kind
Levi,
of
you're
just
talking about Levi.
Levi. Everybody just
Yeah.
kind of knows that he's gay, but he's never actually told anyone that he is. He's just lived with this dude for like 40 years, and it's like okay. And the other guy is like almost a hermit, lives at home, so they don't go out together. They don't do anything, but there's a very brief paragraph there where it gives a description of him that I was like, oh. That's everything you need to know in a nutshell, and it was very well done. I mean, she's just a great writer in general.
Yeah.
She's another one of these where I'm like, I would love to read an action movie script of hers because these
Elle Kennedy, write an action script.
because these sex scenes are intricate, intricate, very detailed.
That is accurate.
Well, we'll get there because my sex scene titles that I wrote in my notes are epic.
Oh, jeez.
But so she decides to come up with this fake date plan, which I'm like, great idea. And then her using Harrison does not seem like good girl behavior.
No.
I'm like, at least she realizes it though. Off the bat, like you're talking about, the self-realization of these books are pretty on point. He, even Evan, when she is like, you need to grow up, is like, oh yeah, I probably need to do some growing up. But he realizes he has mom issues from the get-go too, and so it's like okay, but they finally go on this date with Harrison, and this is where the cop story of him saving the gator. So she asks him, what is your craziest story as a cop or whatever, and he goes, I rolled up as a rookie, first day on the job, to this dispute between neighbors, and they had been shooting at each other, or shooting in general, and so there were guns involved, and they show up to the scene, and the neighbors had been screaming at each other, and one guy was like, well, I'm just trying to shoot to get the gator down. They're like, what gator? The other neighbor had put a live alligator on this guy's roof, and and the guy was trying to shoot at it to get it down, and it wasn't coming down. And so the veteran cop looks at him and goes, well, you got to get up there and go get it. And he's like, what do you mean? Let's call animal control. They're like, they only deal with dogs and on the ground.
Yeah, they don't do things on roofs.
And so he's like, it took me 3 hours to get up there and get this fucking alligator off the roof. It was, his kind of deadpan telling, and we listened to this book, so the voice actor who did it did such a good job, kind of like with the pacing of the story and everything else. It was a great scene.
Yeah.
And she's having a nice time on the date too, so it's like
you can tell that she wants to be friends with Harrison. She, in her mind, she's like, this is who I think I should be dating if I were the like good girl that I'm striving to be. So I think she knows that the whole time. And as much as she does totally lead him on, I also think she's learning a lot from him and his friendship. When they go to like the boat races and when they spend time together, I think she's learning a lot about herself. And then why does Evan also decides that he needs to clean up his
date?
Well, he does crash the date. That was very funny and sad.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot. So Genevieve from the get is trying to become a better version of herself, and Evan is sort of up to his old shenanigans until probably 3/4 of the way through. I mean, or maybe not 3/4, maybe halfway.
No, it's because right after that date, they go to the beach, and he turns it around like about 35% in.
Well, they bone.
Well, yeah. I mean, so he ruins the date her and Harrison kind of go their separate ways in the parking lot, and she's driving out, and Evan's following her on this motorcycle, and she realizes that he's following, and she goes to their spot, their special place on the beach where only they know, and whatever. And so they get there, and they actually, for all of their faults and all their bullshit, actually have very healthy communication with each other.
Yes.
I mean, they have a very heartfelt, open conversation on this beach, and it's like, it seems to be the healthiest part of their relationship is that they can freely communicate with one another. And
except for when she left town.
Yeah,
but this is when they talk about that, right? Like, she explains why she left town.
Yeah.
This was the first time
I think she does explain to him right then, because he gets pissed about Deputy Dickhead, and she's like, yeah, I didn't tell you because you probably would have killed him and gone to jail. And he's like, yeah, I probably would have.
Yeah.
But so chapter 12, 34% in, respectable amount of time, other than the almost bone sesh on like page 2. Respectable amount of time in, they fuck on the beach, and my scene title for that is "That's How You Get Sand in Your Vagine." And it's a steamy sex scene on the beach, and I was like, even in my notes, I go, Elle Kennedy can write sex scenes.
She can. She's good, and they're not like super graphic and weird. I mean, they're graphic, but they're not like. They were really well done. I thought they were.
Yeah. But, I mean, tasteful smut.
Tasteful. I mean, you could still get your rocks off if you wanted to, but it's not.
You could still get a book boner from this.
You could get a book boner for sure, but you wouldn't like. I don't know. You wouldn't get arrested for listening to this in public. Yeah.
Oh, and then they have another very nice chat. Naked in the water while they're washing off all the grit and grime from their first sex sesh. Yes. And then they talk about the empty pool party and all the shenanigans, the trouble that they used to get into, and then chapter 13, literally the next chapter, 36% in, they do it again back on the beach, and this one was entitled "Sandy Butthole Part 2: Electric Boogaloo."
I'm like looking at your notes right now, and it's like bolded and underlined.
Oh yeah,
Sandy Butthole Part 2.
Well, and then she makes the joke like, "What the 6 of us must have done to my mother's vag." She's like, and she immediately regrets it the next day. She's like
having sex with Evan.
And kind of backsliding into her old, way of living and whatever.
Chemistry,
I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked that she immediately regrets it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're bad influences on each other. But she goes, she really looks him dead. Yeah. I mean, even now a little bit, but like she looks him dead in the eye and goes, "Get your shit together."
Yeah.
And he goes, after, leads to him self-reflecting a lot. And he goes, I got to get my shit together. It's like, and so he decides to become a direct quote, "complete good boy retrofit," which includes charity work, according to Google. He had to Google how to be a good person, and it said charity work.
Do charity. And that then came. There was a lot of clarity that came out of him trying to be a good person.
So good. I mean, he goes, "Civic responsibility is very treacherous." He goes to the old folks' home, and they're pinching his butt, and like, one old lady tries to get her to give him a bath, and then the dog eats.
She's like, she pretends that this guy, that Evan, is her husband. She keeps calling him Jerry or something. She's like, "Come on, Jerry, it's time for our bath." And later he finds out from all the people that work there, like, she's completely with
sharp. She's sharp as a tack. She was just trying to get you to see her naked. And then him and Cooper have a dog, and the dog kills this old like Navy vet's bird, and he's pissed about it.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my god! And so finally he gets asked to never come back again. So finally, after trying a bunch of stuff out, he finds the Big Brother program and signs up for that. And I mean, that also led to a bunch of like craziness on their first time getting together. He doesn't know what to do with this kid, so he takes him to like a Hooters style bar and teaches him how to pick up girls. It's like,
teach him what I'm good at.
And then he takes him to an arcade and like beats the shit out of him in all of these games.
Oh yeah,
and Riley is the little kid's name, or not little kid. I mean, he's 13 or 14. And Riley just at one point goes, "You're terrible at this." It made me laugh so hard.
They were really good for each other because it was like he was getting razzed by this young kid, and it was cute. And it was funny. I think at the Hooters restaurant, Evan knew every waitress.
Yeah.
And Riley was like, "Have you slept with all of these women?" And he was like, maybe."
Define sleeping.
Yeah, like. Ooh, about that. So it was funny.
Well, and he teaches him how to pick up girls, and so he's like, "Hey, go over to the sister." So there's a girl, like an out of towner girl or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Go over and ask the sisters what their younger sister, who's your age, likes to do, and if she, go out with you or whatever else." And teaches him how to like mac on chicks, and then
Did you take notes, Ned?
I did, but it was like.
Now you got to try out this technique on girls.
You walk up to somebody and go, "Hey, so what's your favorite thing to do? What's your favorite thing to do at the beach?" And it's like, "Oh, what's your favorite time of day?" "Oh, I'm going to make a note to go, to that we're going to have a date this Sunday at 9 a.m. in the morning." And so he teaches him all this stuff, and then literally this little kid Riley busts these moves out on Jen and does the whole script. And Jen is just looking at Evan, going, "What the hell, dude?
What the hell did you teach him?"
Yeah. And oh my god, it made me laugh so hard. And
that was a great use of the education.
Because this little 13-year-old is just like, "Hey, so what do you like to do at the beach?
Yeah. What's your favorite day of the week?"
Yeah. Oh man, that scene was funny too.
That was good.
And then he's like, now that he's done nice things for about 3 weeks, he's like, "All right, we're getting back together. Like, check. I'm gonna court you. I'm gonna woo you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all reformed and shit," is a direct quote from him. I'm like, oh my god. And just her relationship with her friends does not seem healthy at all either.
But that's what I think. Like, this group of townies, none of them really seem all that great. Like, they have the most amazing moral compass. Like, just even in the first book with Cooper, and he's like sleeping with one of their friends, but he thinks they're just fuck buddies, and she's catching feelings, and then he's like falling in love with his clone, and it's like he's like, it's just their group of friends is really tough, and they're all pretty critical of each other, and very opinionated,
all up in each other's business, and
very
snipey. And also, just, trading boyfriends, and like, this guy likes me, but I don't like him, so I'm not, I'm trying to get him to realize that he doesn't actually like me, and it's like, it's all very complicated and pretty unhealthy.
Yeah, not ideal. I like that. So Genevieve starts to become friendly with, it takes a while, but she eventually becomes friendly with Mackenzie, who is Cooper, the twin brother's girlfriend. Yeah. And it's nice that there's sort of some fresh blood and like new people that she's becoming friends with now. That's later in the story, but I enjoyed that she seemed to have a connection with somebody that wasn't one of her like toxic bitch friends.
Yeah. And she bought this old style hotel, Mackenzie did in town, and it comes up that now that it's looking like she's going to stick around, that Genevieve is going to stick around for a while, she applies to work at the hotel and become like the hotel's general manager, and part of Evan's like good guy thing is like helping her get settled and want to stay and keep her in town by, at any means necessary, really. And this whole time she's still kind of dating Harrison, and like I want to say it's their second date or third date with the boat races. Evan decides that he's going to enter Riley, who likes sailing, into
his
this
little brother.
regatta competition of like sailboat sailing. And his brother's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You don't even know how to sail." He goes, "Riley likes sailing. How hard can it be?" and literally, it was. I think that maybe in the chapter title was "Mistakes Were Made."
They like flipped right out of the gate. And
they crashed into another boat at the starting line. They almost tipped over, and then they rammed the dock as they were pulling in dead last. And it was
ramming speed.
Oh my god! So he runs into the Genevieve and Harrison and they chat. He doesn't have a shirt on, and we meet Aunt Liz, Riley's aunt for the first time. And she's like ogling him, and so all the whole Harrison bullshit, the whole them, her leading him on for that long, whatever else. Evan does the exact opposite with Aunt Liz. He can see that she has a crush on him, and he shuts it down. And it does not do this petty revenge bullshit, which, in my mind, makes him more evolved as the good guy than Genevieve is as the good girl. Because it was like he literally said, I think even Riley mentions like, "Hey, I think my aunt kind of likes you," and he's like, "Yeah, but I only have eyes for one woman, and I'm not gonna even go on a date with her or whatever else." And he does the right thing. Which is, which was nice to see.
I think my favorite thing about that sailing scene was that while they're at this regatta, Genevieve runs into the wife of Deputy Dipshit, and Harrison, being the sweet golden retriever that he is, sees this, knows this, and
golden retriever, great description.
He is like, she's like, "I need to talk to this mom. Like, can I have a couple minutes?" And the kids like aren't leaving. So Harrison's like, "Hey, why don't you 4 kids come with me? Let's go over here and look at this. Well, give them a couple minutes." And so he like takes the kids away so that Genevieve and the mom can have like a moment. And the mom is so sweet too. And like I said, they had this like sisterly kind of relationship when she used to babysit for them. And so she essentially like forgave her, or like freed her from her guilt about that night. And she said, the mom said to Genevieve, like, "Listen, I knew it wasn't a surprise what you were saying. I needed to leave him. That was the like push that I needed."
Catalyst,
I don't want you to feel guilty about it. I'm really sorry that happened. I still think that you're amazing and wonderful and hope that we can have a relationship. And so I think that was really like a weight off of Genevieve's shoulders, because that was a huge part of
catharsis.
Very much, because that's why she left town. And so I loved that moment for Genevieve of like, she needed that. And so I was happy that they could have that. And of course, Harrison being there just as this like ultimate nice guy.
Taking care of the kids and getting them ice cream and, whatever else. Like, yeah. Well, so, and I mean, that kind of brings it up to one. And even Evan was like, did they have the chat about this already? Where he's like, Evan's like, "I'm coming for my girl," and Evan's like, and Harrison's like, "I know, but I'm not backing down. Like, I'm not backing away from this. I like her a lot, and I'm not just gonna
make her choice.
I'm not just gonna step away." And Evan was like, he actually shows some balls, but that leads to now their first date. And so Evan takes sex off the table. He says, we can't have sex because I'm going to win. But he's like, "I'm going to be a good boy." So their first good boy, good girl
don't
date.
Say it like that. That's creepy.
Good boy.
I'm going to be a good boy.
Good boy. Good boy.
I'm going to be a good boy.
Hey, big boy.
Gross.
But their whole good boy good girl date is funny. So they go to this vegan restaurant and he dresses up nice, with no holes or stains on his clothes or whatever, and they go to some vegan place. She's like, I didn't even know if you knew what vegan stuff was. He's like, I'm very evolved now. And then they go mini golfing where they almost get in a fight with some punk
really
snot-nosed
funny.
kids. And she's like, shut the fuck up or I'll kill you. And he's like, whoa, calm down. And then they gamble with these like tweens.
Yeah, he's like taking 20 minutes to line up his shot at a mini golf thing, and then he knocks it into the like little pond anyway, and the little kids are like, "Come on, dude!" And then, which I agree with the little kids, like let them play through. I mean, but then they ended up like having a talking to them and like engaging with them and making bets and stuff. So
and then they go to the pottery scene, which I liked because she was, so they go to this pottery place. And there's a little girl's birthday party there, and the little girl's wailing, and Evan goes over and settles her down and gets her calm and paints with her and like has a good time and comes back with her pink feather boa and whatever. And my note goes, pottery painting with wailing girl gets her all wet.
Oh jeez.
She's like, oh, he's gonna be such
wet. It sounds like the little girl is getting wet. You need to clarify.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
That's what it sounded like. You need to clarify in your statement, Ned.
Gets Genevieve all wet.
Thank you.
Well, she's like, oh, he'd be such a good father, and like all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, fair enough. And then he meets his mom for the first time, so he still wants a relationship with his mom. Yeah. So they go to the mom dinner, and he gives her like he gives her the you got to get your shit together speech, which is pretty funny because he's literally 3 weeks into getting his shit together. So it's like, my favorite line from that whole thing is, you should have made us a pie. Like his whole big thing was like, it's like moms make pies for their kids
because Aunt Liz makes pie for Riley, his little brother.
You should have made us pie. So at the end, she brings a pie. She brings a pie to the potluck dinner or whatever. And I was like, okay. She's like, I bought it at the store, but I rewrapped it so it looked like I made it.
Yeah, that was. I thought that was. I think their moms. The deputy dipshit moves the story along in a lot of ways, but so do their relationships with their moms, and they talk like Genevieve and Evan talk to each other about their moms the most. Like that's who they turn to. They both really understand each other's hardships when it comes to their relationships with their moms. So I think the mom stuff and throughout the entire book is helps them kind of come together and also understand each other and so this is the mom. She's like trying to get her shit together as well. Second chances for many people in this story. And she asks Evan to come to Charleston to meet with her, and he goes eventually. And they do. They
reconcile.
They do.
And then but the self-awareness that they have is I think is most prescient in I don't think that's the right way to use that word in the scene where they're the second bonfire that they have where he's Evan's not drinking and he's making virgin cocktails for Jen, but he goes listen, he gives her the real talk where he's like, listen, I like the old you and I like the new you, but you got to make sure that you don't lose yourself in this whole experiment that you're doing right now.
Yeah. like
you trying to be a good girl and do all this other kind of stuff is great, but make sure you don't lose that spark that makes you. And she was like, oh, he's speaking truth right now, and like really kind of hits her because she's been feeling the same kind of stuff, and he just like blasts her in the face with it at this fucking beach party. And it's like, okay. And then, like you said, Deputy Dickhead moves the story along where he comes and
shows up
and he meets the fuck around and find out crew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he
and
harasses
he's
Genevieve again, and it's just
and Evan
he's
just
got
has
a
an
vendetta
axe.
for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Evan just has an axe, and after he's calling her a whore and all this other kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and Evan walks up with an
You'll
axe and
never
goes,
change.
"Really? You want to say that again?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much threatens him to get off the beach or get away from them
Yeah.
or whatever else. And
he
she's like,
does.
she was so impressed that Evan didn't hit this guy with an axe that they fuck on the desk.
Well,
And
in
so
his room, yeah.
chapter 24, 74% in, desktop doing it is what I call that one. And yeah, she's so horny for him after he doesn't kill this cop that they go upstairs and just bone all night. And yeah, it was like, okay. But at that point I'm like, you started fucking your ex-boyfriend and you got to break up with Harrison at that point, but she doesn't. And it takes like 2 months more for her to like break up with this dude, and they're boning down on the reg, and she's still like going out on dates with him. It was like, come on.
I know. And I think if she would have just told Harrison, like, let's just be friends, but we can still hang out, fine. But you're right. She didn't really clarify that, like, she was sleeping with Evan this whole time. So I get that.
I mean, he probably knew. I mean,
I know, but he's such a sweet guy. I'm glad that he gets...
satisfied look in her eye every time they go out together or whatever.
What?
I'm kidding. That was not a line in the book.
I was like, wait, I don't remember that.
No.
But yeah, so then there's a lot of sex. I think the last quarter of the book is very sex heavy.
Yeah.
Sex forward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean they. I missed one of the sexy chapters in there.
Oh, you didn't bold.
Yeah,
bold it in your
I
notes?
just did.
I know. I'm watching you do it.
Yeah. So the mom gets her shit together, which is nice to see. Mm-hmm. And there's literally a pearl clutching scene.
I loved that scene.
Yeah. These rich people sitting next to Evan and the mom at a restaurant are like not happy that they're swearing and talking to each other and whatever.
Right.
And the mom just dresses them down. Like she's like, "Hey asshole, you've been staring at my tits all night." And your wife just gave her number to the bus boy or whatever, and it was like, and
so stop acting so shocked by us having a conversation about real life shit. That was.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
Like you could sense it coming. I was like, this is good. Elle Kennedy. It's like just an example of a scene that like. It's just it just shows you so much about their personalities in this like very short scene, but it was great. Yeah. Well done.
And then he immediately goes to Jen to tell her about this, and bedroom BJ is what I titled this chapter, chapter 25, 77% in. Wet eager mouth was a direct quote. But she mainly sucks him off so that she can avoid talking about her feelings. You know, she's like using it as avoidance strategy. Like, hey, here's a BJ, and I'm like, I ain't mad at it.
Ugh, gross.
Well, and my next note is literally still leading on Harrison while straight fucking Evan's brains out.
You're very upset about her treatment of Harrison.
I don't love it, you know, because technically she's not cheating or whatever else, but she's been very upfront with Evan about that. She has not been as upfront with Harrison about that, but you know, I don't know, it was weird. And then the whole Riley relationship with Evan too is great. Yeah. And Evan convinces Jen to go out with her old running mate, friend, drinking buddy,
Trina,
as a test. Yeah,
Trina is just such like a.
And my note is literally, Trina is a nightmare. Like she sucks. And
Trina's a tough name.
And the pendulous, saggy testicles is my favorite line from their like night out together.
What is she describing?
she was talking, Trina was talking to a guy that she thought was like 30 and whatever, and he was like 45 and married and fat and saggy and whatever, and Jen's just like, yeah, you would have known that he was that old when you saw his pendulous saggy balls or whatever. And I was like, that's such a great line.
Very observant.
But that leads to another push the story forward with Deputy Dickhead, where he arrests her on trumped up charges because Trina has coke in her bag, and he just blames Genevieve for it and arrests her and takes her to jail and makes her sit in there overnight, and Harrison talks to her or whatever else. But it kind of, that whole thing led to her and her dad actually finally having a real talk about the mom and her. I even put in my notes, I was like, the talk with dad is great, Misty, because they finally work out a lot of their issues, and he kind of like is like, yeah, your mom had fucking mental problems.
Well, she had postpartum depression. She had some pretty significant mental health issues, and I think it just
which is what I just said. It's like you're like correcting me, but that's exactly what I just said.
She had fucking mental problems.
Yeah.
Can we not be so disrespectful?
It's not disrespectful. It's mental problems. It's a problem that is mental.
Okay, fine, but you're saying it in a very harsh tone.
No.
And for those of us who have been there, let's not be rude about it.
I'm not being rude about it. You're putting connotation on my words.
She had fucking mental problems.
Stop adding meaning to my words.
Stop adding meaning to my words. So I think I loved that conversation with the dad. It's just this whole thing of, she spent the whole book trying to be better, and then this stupid deputy dickhead just grabs her and pulls her, this whole scene of her going to jail and spending the night there, and her dad having to bail her out, and then them finally having this conversation that they should have had a million years ago. But she finally understands so much more about her mom. This is where he tells her, the dad tells Genevieve, you and your mom are actually extremely similar.
Yeah,
and
you're pretty much the same person.
Yeah, that's probably why you butted heads so much. But she, I think the dad said that she kept having kids. She has 6 siblings, or she's one of 6. And she kept having kids because she was hoping the next one would not have the...
would knock her out of the cycle.
Yes. And so finally with her last kid, she did not have the postpartum depression, and she bonded with the child in an amazing way. And so
which pissed off the other 5 kids.
Yes. So like everybody always knew that the youngest Craig, or whatever his name was, like that he was always the favorite, and they all knew that. She said he was the only one actually crying at the funeral. And so, but I think there was just so much to be said for the honesty with which they observed and looked at their life. And I just, Elle Kennedy writes this in a way of just the backstory is so substantive. There's so much there that you can really feel it. And I don't know, it made me feel a lot of different ways. Like you said, Misty, about little Misty kittens. But I really appreciated that. I thought it gave so much context to Genevieve's story.
I mean, it really put everything in perspective. And she was kind of like, oh, how did I not recognize that? Like, and it's like, when you're in it, you're in it. It's like you can't see the forest through the trees or whatever. But, it really rearranged all her mom drama in a different order, and it was pretty profound conversation, for a romance novel too. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, not that some of these books don't deal with real issues, but this was a pretty profound conversation to see after she's getting boned down on a desk 2 chapters earlier.
Well, yes, but I think for me at this point, observing Jen's sort of arc of trying to, scratch her bad girl. She got that job as the general manager of the hotel.
Yeah.
And she, had this run-in with Deputy Dipshit, but then it all got cleared up. I guess Jen's dad is friends with the chief of police.
Police chief, yeah.
Of course. I feel like that's such a standard in all of these small town books. Like, of course, somebody's friends with the police chief. And so, she ends up getting things dropped. And I feel like she has gotten to a point now where she's like, okay, I feel really good about the trajectory of like where I'm going. And then
she went out for a full night with Trina and didn't drink and still had a good time. And she was in a very good place mentally with all that stuff. But then Evan finds out that she got arrested and immediately
takes responsibility.
Becomes
he feels
a
guilty.
Dumb shit. Yeah, he's like, oh, I forced you into this. And, yeah, and it's such a dumb reason for breaking up. Like, even, he's taking credit for dumb shit. And even Genevieve goes, stop being a martyr. Like, this isn't your problem. This isn't of your doing. This isn't of your making. That being said, it's a hella quick low point. I mean, like... They literally, I have the breakdown right here. It goes, he breaks up with her, then Randy gets pissed off because he gets suspended. Deputy Dipshit gets suspended from work, and so he comes over and throwing bottles at Genevieve's house, and the dad chases him off with a shotgun.
Goes out with a shotgun. I loved that visual.
And is like, get off my lawn, motherfucker! And then calls the chief of police to get him arrested for drunk driving, and then they pretty much get back together. like he finds out that the next morning he finds out that she was harassed by Deputy Dipshit
Evan,
and they go meet at the beach, and she pretty much goes, all right, well, we're gonna get back together and you should probably marry me. And I was like, oh, okay, like pretty quick fucking. I mean, and I think that she even jokes around about that. There's like no grand gesture really, but he'd go. But he said, you could have just showed me your tits. That'd probably work. I was like, okay. And then they have the final sex scene with like 97%, chapter 31. I titled it "One Bone for the Road," and they fuck in the backseat of her car. And
she still wants to be a bad girl. She's like, go get in the backseat of my car.
I'm gonna do some bad things sometimes.
Yeah, I still want to be bad.
But that was still like closed door. I don't think that was very explicit. I think she was just like, we're gonna fuck in the backseat of my car.
God.
from the intro, from the description, she likes to fuck and fuck shit up.
Fuck.
Oh man! And then Harrison and Aunt Liz get together, and then then the second to last line or something else is like she's just blasting nips at the table. She's not wearing a bra.
Steals her bra
at their dinner party, and she's just like nips out Corrigan at the table at the end there, and it's like like okay, all right, very. I mean, love it. I love her. Love Elle Kennedy. Great writing. It was great. Any final thoughts on the book?
I read it back. This was the second time I read it, and I have no memory of reading it the first time. I remember that except for the funeral fuck scene when I don't think I could forget that scene if I ever tried. But genuinely, after that scene, I had no memory of reading this book at all. Like, I want to go check my Google Calendar and see, like, what was I doing when I read this book 2 years ago that I have no memory of it? And that makes me sad because I loved it this time.
Yeah.
Like, I gave it middle of the road rating last time, and now I'm like, what? I would absolutely give it, like, at least 4 or 5 at least this time, because I just thought it was so well done. And so it surprised me that I have no memory of reading it the first time, except for the funeral scene. Yeah. So, which I will live rent free in my brain forever. And so I loved this book. I didn't
me too.
love the first of this Avalon Bay series. It had its moments, but there was so much toxicity in the friend group, and even just how the couple in the first
relationship
book
started.
Yeah. So but I love this book. I would read this one standalone without question. I thought it was great.
For sure.
Super well done. And yeah, I don't know. Would you recommend this book if you were?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I mean, the cover's great, as previously mentioned.
Cover.
And
you're such a cover whore.
Just such a cover whore, for sure. But no, I love this book. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. There's witty banter. There's some steaminess. But it's some steam. But it's great, and she's great, and I love her other series. I just finished Charlie Method, which I think you have coming up, which is a why choose hockey smut kind of book.
Another why choose.
It is but it's only with two guys, and they're not gay together. So it's like intro to pucking around.
Okay.
It's right. But it's good. I like it. I liked it. And I've read a couple of her other series, and she has like a spicy assassin series too. So we're gonna have to add one of those down the line here, because I think there's like 9 books, and they're all like killers, and they all fuck each other, and it's like okay. But no, I love Elle Kennedy. I love this book, and it is absolutely worth a read.
Yes, highly recommend. From the Smut Sibs.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, I mean, I think we've said all that needs to be said about this one. And now for our new outro script that I put together. If you're liking our bullshit and us generally laughing at our own jokes, please hit that like button, rate, review, and subscribe. Generally, shower us with praise. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you.
That's our new outro pitch to help us out here.
To send you to our socials, which I still love. When we went to find get all the handles, have I already told the story to get all of our handles for like Gmail, TikTok, Instagram? In my mind, I was like, gosh, we're gonna probably be like sibsreadsmut4@gmail.com. And then I went to like sign up for all this stuff, and I was like, I can't believe nobody has taken Sibs Read Smut at any of these socials. Yeah. And I was like, actually, I guess it's probably not a super common.
I mean, such a good name for our podcast. We really knocked it out of the park with that one, Helen.
I just thought that other people. I was like, when have I ever had an original idea? Never. Like, well, look at us. All right, we're the first Sibs Read Smut at Gmail.
It was almost called Clutching Your Pearls, but Sibs Read Smut went out, and I think we're the better for
title. It. I think we're better for Sibs Read Smut, but Clutching Your Pearls.
Yeah.
There's so much just filth. Pearl necklace. I mean, hilarious. You really could have a lot of mileage.
Yeah, no. Well, we get a lot of mileage out of that. What do we got coming up next week?
I have no idea. Do you know?
I do know. It is the book that possibly started it all. We are reading E.L. James' 50 Shades of Grey.
Have you read this before?
I have not read this. This is a virgin. This is a virgin reading for me. I have not read it before, and honestly, it was one of those books where it was like so big back in the day that I was like, fuck you. It can't be as good as everybody's saying. Okay. So we shall fucking see.
I mean, we can talk about it next week, but I don't know if everybody was saying how good it was, or if it was just so smutty that everybody loved it.
To be honest, I didn't really listen to anybody at that time because I didn't really give a shit about these books 15 years ago or whenever it came out.
2011, I think.
Yeah, so 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That being said, we'll get into it next week.
Yeah, we'll do our research. And we'll give you all the details, all the facts.
Yeah, all the figs. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and please tune in next week. We drop episodes on Tuesdays. Have a good night, Smutters. Thank you.
Stay smutty.
Stay smutty.
See you later.
Bye.